Hello, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to the difference between healthy remorse and toxic guilt episode in the Be the CEO of Your Own Life podcast. I am Olga, your host, and today we're going to have so much fun. But first, coffee. And you want me to tell you something? Today is my birthday. So I'm coming to you on my birthday to talk about all the things healthy remorse and toxic guilt. Because, well, first of all, I love Mondays, and Mondays are a great opportunity to change our mindset because it kind of is going to impact the rest of your week. But also, it's my birthday, and it's a rebirth in many ways. And so, my wish for you, as you're listening to this, is that you give yourself permission to feel healthy remorse and to feel toxic guilt and to be self-aware of the difference and how those two things feel differently for you, and to choose from here on, after you've done feeling it, so you still have to feel it, but then you continue to choose to not go down the path of toxic guilt because you deserve better. It's kind of like a rebirth of how you operate if guilt is being an emotion that you feel often. Lately, I've been coaching women who feel this often, which is why I'm so motivated to sharing with you. Before we dive in, I wanted to share with you a part of a recent email that I received that quite honestly has brought me through all the feelings, because it's one beautiful in nature with so much love towards me, but also because it highlights the impact that coaching has. And although I've been coaching for a long time, I never stop being surprised by the reach of coaching into somebody's life. So, for context, this client came to my home a couple of weeks ago, and she or a week ago, dropped off a giant blue dinosaur and also a little pink pot with a cat and flowers in it. And that little pot, yeah. So she dropped them off, and then she sent me this email. Okay. So she says the dino is for Mateo, my son, and the cat is for Anna. Anna is my daughter. And she didn't quite make it. So she was an IVF transfer that we did and was not successful. It was the last IVF we did. We knew it was a girl because we did genetic testing. So she had a name from the get-go. And is somebody we talk about often in this house since our son was aware of that whole process. Okay. The quote, the part of this email that I want to read to you is, there is nothing in the world I can say or give you, Olga, that expresses my feelings of gratitude and awe. I've remade a relationship with my mother that is positive, or, well, that I can handle, laughing out loud. I feel that I have a mother again after 35, 40 years of rift. I want to say it's all because of you, but that Olga on my shoulder tells me to say it's because of me and my use of the tools you have taught me. But you still taught me. The bubbling, stubborn, jaded, over-cancel, skeptical, high-standard perfectionist. Coaching me is like taming some crazy wild creatures, sort of the use of tranquilizers, laughing out loud. So bravo, short of the use of tranquilizers, laughing out loud. So bravo on doing a great job on coaching me. Thank you for doing that great job. Please enjoy your children, watching your children happy, as my mother is having the opportunity to see her children happy as well. Make sure Mateo and Anna know they are receiving these gifts because their mom does a great job and helped someone get a mother they didn't have before. They are very lucky to have you. Happy face. And I end the quotation. I don't know how to, I don't know, I don't have the words or the wisdom to express to you guys what it feels like to receive an email like this. But I'll tell you, I had so many emotions. I cried so many times reading this email over and over and over because of the dimensions of feelings that I get from this email. So one, and most importantly, the one I care to talk about with you guys is when this woman hired me as her coach, which by the way, she's done 2 or 3 rounds of reset, 3 rounds of reset your mindset. She didn't have this as one of her goals at all, but it happened vicariously because of the work she was doing. That to me is what's mind-blowing amazing. You come to coaching for the reason you think you're here for, personal development, to get another job, to have confidence, to get to know yourself better, to create more self-awareness, to lower stress, whatever it is that brings you in. And by doing that work and showing up, you begin to do other things that you were not even contemplating in your initial, I want coaching for this reason. And this is somebody who's, like she said, over counseled. She's gone to therapy so many times before, probably to address this very same issue. And suddenly, when you do coaching, your mindset begins to change and you begin to see things differently, and it impacts every aspect of your life and every person in your life. So that's why I wanted to read this to you, because I can't possibly put into words the impact of coaching, as well as my clients do when they experience it. So I wanted to share this with you. I think these words are absolutely worth sharing because of what they say, the impact of coaching. So all my heart goes to this client for having shared those words with me, and I thought it was important to share them with all of you. And I did indeed enjoy watching my children be happy. My son carries that big dinosaur everywhere, and it's so heavy he can hardly lift it. It's bigger than himself. And he carries it, says, "Mom, this is so heavy." And he also says at the end, when he's done carrying the heavy dinosaur up and down the stairs, "And I'm so strong." And my coach heart, I need a coach heart and ears, just this is music to my ears. I love to hear that. So it's really the gift that keeps giving. So for those of you who are thinking like, there's some unresolved things in my life that will stay that way, maybe not. Maybe give coaching a go. All right, let's dive in. But first, coffee. So let's just talk about how to empower ourselves so that we kind of get rid of this, toxic guilt, and what is toxic guilt, etc. etc. We're going to dive into this. So thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. I feel very lucky to be doing this on my birthday. Also tells you how much I love doing this. And like I said, my best hope for you is that you get to understand the difference between these two emotions, and that you don't shy away from either, but that you choose one that makes you grow. And I think it's evident, it's obvious even before we get started which one will be, So let's begin by exploring healthy remorse. First of all, it's a natural human emotion, okay, that comes when we recognize and take responsibility for our actions or mistakes. So healthy remorse is obviously essential to any part of personal development and personal growth. Why? Because when you have this feeling, you're able to implement changes. You're able to evaluate and think like, okay, what would I have done differently? Yes, I didn't like this feeling. I'm gonna give some parenting examples because they come handy for me right now. Is where I feel guilt, really, or healthy remorse. But you can use this with like work examples as well. I'm sure you have them in there too. I don't tend to feel guilty about work as much, but I know my clients do, about leaving work too soon, not doing enough, leaving early, not finishing a task in time. So healthy remorse. I felt that I felt my son. It was the weekend. We were doing a brunch. My husband and I love breakfast food. I hope you do too. And we're, sitting down to eat. And my son is like, "Okay, guys, it's a race. Who's going to finish first?" And both my husband and I were like, whoa, it's not a race. We're going to enjoy our time and eat. And then we were like, oh my God, what are we doing to our poor son? Because he takes his sweet time during weekdays having breakfast. And we end up telling him it's a race so that he can eat the breakfast fast and we can get out the door and have him at daycare time and we can start working time on time. Well, we're conditioning him. Having breakfast has to be a race, it's got to be fast. And there we were, like, just wanting to enjoy our Sunday brunch or Saturday brunch or whatever it was. And he was like, there's something wrong with this breakfast. We got to do it fast. So I'm not going to lie, I felt a bit of remorse, like, oh my God, what am I doing? So that was a healthy remorse, in my opinion, because then I was able to think and evaluate with my husband. Okay, so how can we do this differently? How can we explain to him it in ways that is different, that he understands that not every, and for ourselves, not every, even if it takes longer than it is, like, what can we do differently next time we're in this scenario so that he doesn't feel everything has to be like a competition, a rush, like he's in a rush to do this. And so I found it very enlightening. Okay, so when you use your healthy remorse as a way of learning from your mistake or your actions, you grow. And as a result, you've got like new information for your success next time, right? So that's like been a recent time where I thought, okay, this is really healthy. This is really healthy for us to do, to like come back and think about it like, okay, I didn't like this feeling. Why didn't I like this feeling? Which is very different from, I am a terrible mom, adding labels. This is I'm ruining my child, being dramatic and like end of world kind of thinking, that then will stain my self-esteem. And it will absolutely stop my growth. And I'm not asking myself empowered questions. What would I do differently next time? Instead, I'm going to walk around the rest of my day feeling like crap because or stuck, or like I'm not enough. Are you following me? So you guys can do this the same. I'm sure you have like your own ideas and thoughts of when you feel some guilt. And what you use with it is the mindset after. So it's obviously human to have all emotions, including guilt and remorse. And it is normal to have them, and it's encouraged to feel them. But that is your mindset after. What are you going to do with that after? That I think is so important, is what may just bring the difference between healthy to toxic guilt. So let's go over the points or the characteristics of healthy remorse. The cost. Healthy remorse comes from genuine recognition and acceptance of our actions and our choices, because that they have caused harm or disappointment or hurt to ourselves or to others, right? So like understanding that something we've done, didn't have the results we wanted, that it may have caused hurt or harm or something. So that's healthy. That's still part of healthy remorse. And it is based on facts. Okay, definitely. When I said, and maybe that was like, it did produce some remorse for me, like I said, that example, but maybe that it's not like a strong feeling of remorse. And you could have others like yelling at someone, losing your patience with somebody at work because they were late, for example. That's something that definitely will make me feel a bit, maybe I could be more understanding, right? And instead of like, I'm a terrible boss or I'm a terrible coworker. So the cost arises from like a genuine recognition and acceptance that your actions caused disappointment, hurt, whatever, not great emotion. In healthy remorse, you have the awareness and the responsibility. They go hand in hand. I think it's so inviting to just think of, what do I own here? And so that involves acknowledging the mistake, but also immediately taking action, taking responsibility of your actions. So demonstrating what empathy for those who were affected, like apologizing. And I'm going to think about it, like what we did with my husband. Oh, this isn't so good. We're not aware we were creating like this conditioning to our son to always be like food has to be a competition. He's probably not even enjoying every bite. He's just so rushed. And partially it's because he's 3 years old. And at 3 years old, you're just so distracted by you're so not even distracted, like you're paying attention to so many things that are happening in the kitchen. Like dad is cooking, mom is making coffee. It's all interesting to him. So he's taking his time. And sometimes he's flat out just playing. And his brain is not yet like, all I do is eat, all I do is talk, what monotasking. So for me, that particular case was my awareness that and my action that I've been teaching my son, this is a rush, we gotta eat fast. And it ends there. It ends there. I'm not going to sabotage now the kind of mom that I am or my worthiness because of this. And that's an intentional choice. I could have done that path. That'll be toxic guilt. So it's awareness and responsibility. I am going to take responsibility. I'm going to apologize to my son because, unbeknown to me and him, I've been causing this idea every meal is to be rushed. And like in reality, my husband and I, when we go up to the restaurant, we tell the waitress, we're just going to order you one thing at a time because we don't want you to bring all the food. We want this to last as long as possible. We want to stay here for as much as we can. We enjoy a good meal. We definitely want to pass that on to our kid, right? Okay, so there's the growth and learning. There's the responsibility, awareness and responsibility. And then is the growth and learning. So in healthy remorse, like it provides you with an opportunity for personal growth and learning. You learn from yourself and your actions. And it motivates you to make amends, seek forgiveness, make positive changes to your behavior, to your thinking, like reevaluate how you go about your life. But it happens fast. It's not like this super complicated thing. It's just like, oh yeah, when I interrupt people, I used to work all the time until somebody called me out. Somebody called me out and said, you always come into the office with a thought in your mind and you interrupt anybody who's talking to share that thought in your mind. And I was kind of insulted at first. I was like, huh. But then I sit in silence and I thought about it and I'm like, yeah, awareness, shit, I didn't know I was doing that. And then responsibility, I do that. So what am I going to do about it? Growth and learning. This is a great, I'm so grateful somebody said it. I would have continued to interrupt people not knowing me. So now I don't. Now I really listen. And when I was working in that place, we had open cubicles. So it was one great space. And truly, I did treat it like a living room. When I came in, I'm like, stop. Didn't care if people were working or not. Now that I think about it, it was, oh, wow, really disrespectful on my end. But I was unaware. Okay, so that was great. Again, I could have used this and beat myself up. What kind of a woman was I? How calm did I? How disrespectful I was. Instead, I had a lot of empathy towards those impacted and myself. And I grew and I learned from that. So I did ask for forgiveness and I also made positive changes to my behavior because that never happened ever again. Then I waited for my turn to talk. Then I would just actually pay attention to what was going on in the space as I was walking in, not assuming that it was break time and everybody wanted to talk to me. That's what I call constructive reflection, right? So after you kind of you grew and you learned, you go into constructive reflection, self-reflection, self-improvement, and you commit to making things better for your own freaking future. How different is this from guilt? In guilt, you feel stuck and you're like, oh my God, and you repeat the same story. And she told me this, and she told me I interrupted everybody. She told me I always do it. And she was frustrated and I must be terrible and she must hate me. Well, now I don't like her either. That's the brain of somebody who's in toxic guilt, looking for more drama and more fire. Whereas when you intentionally want to have healthy remorse, you can absolutely feel bad about it and then be okay with just the apologizing. And then use your self-reflection. Sit down and honestly, do I do this? I do it. How can I do it better? Like I said, now it feels like, and this is years and years ago, because I've been in private practice for almost 10 years. And that was a few years before I even opened my private practice. So we're talking about 14 years. It feels like a completely different human of whom I am today. But without that experience, I don't know that I would have. It would have had to happen at some point. Somebody had to be frustrated with me interrupting for me to notice it. So there has to be after your growth and learning, constructive reflection from yourself. You need to seek reassurance from people like, are you sure? Can I improve this? You just have to make that choice that you're going to improve it and go for it. And lastly, healthy remorse comes with a positive impact. Why? Because it fosters a healthy relationship, first of all, with yourself and with others. When you go and apologize, when you say like, oh, I'm so sorry, I never noticed I did this, I will be changing that. It gives you a sense of personal integrity, and that person feels bonded to you and feels nourished. And if the guilt is totally with you, there's no other person, nobody that you cut off, like your own self-awareness. Oh my God, I talk too much. I'm talking enough. I should be doing this. Whatever it is that you're feeling remorseful about, if you apply the same structure, you're still going to end up with a positive impact because you will have grown and learned, and you become more accountable, and you will be more like, I'm a woman of my word. Like I promised myself that I was going to learn from my mistakes with healthy remorse and say goodbye to toxic guilt. But I do want to talk about toxic guilt because that's what I hear all the time in my sessions and what I'm coaching people out of. And I'm sure if you're not coached, you probably have toxic guilt as well. What causes toxic guilt is often irrational beliefs. I also call them limiting beliefs that are self-imposed by your own standards, and they use like excessive self-blame, and there is no basis for that feeling of guilt. There's like, you could have a good reason to feel guilty, but it's like so extreme. Guys, I've seen this with so many things, from like why you lost a pregnancy and people feel like must have been my fault. And there's like this excessive toxic guilt that makes you feel so small and so like you are a criminal almost. But I've also seen it with my clients when they make a simple mistake. They forget to add something to a report. Their manager or supervisor tells them like, oh, you were supposed to do this and you didn't do it, or you didn't do this, or you did it wrong. And my clients will go on to excessively blame themselves for that tiny mistake. Doesn't matter what size the mistake it was. For them, it's going to feel massive. And then there's this self-flagellation. And that involves berating oneself, dwelling on the past mistakes, engage in terrible negative self-talk, and making efforts to amend things of the situation, but from a place of neediness. I need you to make me feel good about what I'm doing, because what's going on inside my mind is so negative. Like you're literally starting a fire inside yourself that wants to burn you with your own talk. You're saying bad words about yourself. You're labeling yourself as stupid, not good enough. You're going back into the past, that mistake, and previous ones to make it even feel more stronger. I've done this in the past. I've recently made a mistake that I made in the past, and that was one of my most gaslighting thoughts. But you've made that mistake before, but you made it before. Like I was so unapologetic with myself because I made the same mistake before, and somehow I should never be able to make that mistake again. Then there's paralyzing effect of guilt. And that's when most of you come to see me for coaching. When you're in paralyzing effect, you already did all the self-talk that is terrible. You already, overly guilty yourself. And now you're feeling the toxic guilt paralysis, which obviously hinders your personal growth and it prevents you from moving forward. You can't really forgive yourself. You just feel like, my clients will say, I feel stuck. I can't let go of this guilt. This guilt is just consuming me. I feel so guilty about not spending more time with my children and being at work. And I feel so guilty to be at work and not doing enough, like my other coworkers who have no children. And I can't find the in-between. And it's paralyzing because all you're doing is overthinking and feeling guilty. And it is toxic because you're learning nothing from it. And you are insulting yourself every step of the way. Why? Because you have a limiting belief there somewhere that says you can't do both well. You either do one or the other, or you're not good enough, or you should never make mistakes. They're going to get fired. I was coaching somebody who's like, yeah, my thought is they're going to fire me. if I leave a problem unresolved until the next day because I've already worked 7 hours today and I don't have enough staff to continue to resolve this problem, although it's not an emergency, my brain is telling it's an emergency. If I go home, I'm going to get fired. But if I don't go home and I work until that problem is resolved, I'm going to miss bedtime with my kids. My husband's going to be upset that I wasn't home for supper, etc., etc. Yes, you're following me? Paralyzing effect of guilt. And although it's paralyzing, you're exhausted because your brain is actually in a loop. Then there's the negative self-image. You begin to be so preoccupied with how this is seen. How are others seeing you? So if I go back to my coworkers and I always interrupt, oh my God, I could have stayed like forever stuck in the thought of like, how do they see me? Do they even like me? Right? And probably just wondering if I am worthy, if blah, 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 and letting my self-esteem just go down the drain. So negative self-image of like me imagining how they will see me and ultimately just lower my own self-image. Like, oof, I'm the person who makes mistakes. That sucks. Like suddenly you're not human. You can't make mistakes. And then lastly, toxic guilt gives you an emotional burden. Like it burns, okay? Toxic guilt can lead to emotions of distress, anxiety, perpetual cycle of self-punishment. And this inhibits your happiness, obviously, and your fulfillment. What do I mean by self-punishment? I had a client who said this to me the other day. It's like, okay, it's almost like I punished myself. I made a mistake at work, and then I didn't let myself be off on time to work the next day, the next actually few days of the next week. I was just thinking like, I gotta work more. I have to work more. So you might have your own self-imposed punishment. Like, I'm not gonna have any fun. It's not the time to go see my friends. I made a mistake. It's not the time to take a vacation. I'm not gonna take days off. So toxic guilt is a use of your energy totally against you versus for you. In toxic guilt, you're in like fixed mindset, which doesn't think that you can grow from mistakes. It thinks that you should be born with all the knowledge, and that's who always you will be. But I think it's important, even when it comes to guilt, to apply the lenses of growth mindset, where we can understand that remorse is important. Imagine life without remorse. That will suck, because we're always going to offend somebody. We've been offended even by the people we love most, our parents. My mom has yelled at me, has said things that she regretted later. And thank God for remorse. That makes me feel like, oh, she's human. She acknowledged that she hurt me. This is good. My husband has done the same. I've done that to my husband too. So remorse is super healthy for all of our relationships. Toxic guilt is useless. It's a waste of our personal energy. So it's important to distinguish between healthy remorse and toxic guilt in order for you to intentionally start fostering personal growth that comes with self-compassion, because you are responsible for your emotional well-being. Healthy remorse allows you to acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them, make positive changes. It's the best. Toxic guilt, on the other hand, is rooted on irrational beliefs and negative self-talk, and it hinders your personal progress and your happiness. It sucks, right? So if you can recognize the differences, you can cultivate healthier relationship with essentially the making of mistakes, the recognizing that you're not perfect. And we have so many of those instances in life where we're like, oh, that wasn't so perfect. I wasn't so good. So I want to leave you with an exercise that I created for my clients. And I've actually taught them to both of my groups, Be the CEO of Your Own Life, and to my Reset clients, and they both loved it. So I'm actually attaching it to this podcast as a PDF. So go over to the show notes and you'll be able to download the exercise and follow it along. It's called the should detox. And so I want you to think about a phrase that you often tell yourself: I should not, or I should exercise more. I should stop eating sugar. I should care a little bit more about so-and-so. I should blah, blah, blah. The should guilt is born with any sentence that begins with I should. And right after that, whatever it is that you're trying to do from a guilt perspective, you have like zero motivation to do it. You won't stay on that for too long. So this exercise offers you to make a reframe of your mindset when you think you should. And you can follow the exercises, 4 simple steps. You're going to love it, I promise you, because my clients have loved it. So it's a free resource for you. Download it. You can start using it right away. All you're going to need is to catch yourself next time you say, I should do something. And follow these 4 steps, and you tell me how you feel after. But all of my clients who have done it have felt an instant relief. Like they show me their shoulders are lighter physically, they tell me. They say they feel actually empowered and more clear and hopeful and excited by following 4 simple steps of my should detox. So head over to the show notes and download it. Get on it right away. You can save it and continue to use it because you will. My clients are printing that thing and having it on their desk. So each time they're feeling really guilty about something, they can go ahead and follow those 4 steps. But ultimately, that's one exercise that allows you to reframe your mindset. You are responsible for choosing how you want to think about remorse, whether you want to make it healthy or go the toxic way and just milking that guilt for what it's worth. I hope this was a helpful episode. Also, today, July 17th, date of my birthday. You can wish me a happy birthday, even if it's just by closing your eyes and saying happy birthday. I will take it. I so appreciate getting older. It's a privilege that not very many get. But on this very special day, I want to remind you that as of today, I'm opening the doors to my coaching program, named after this podcast, Be the CEO of Your Own Life. What it is, 6 months of coaching, private and in group. Private coaching gives you the opportunity to dive in just you and I and go over your specifics. And the group coaching, we can also dive into your specifics, but as a community. The benefits of community and a sense of belonging for women are unmeasurable. It improves our sense of well-being. It allows us to feel connected and more accountable. It is so powerful to be a part of this community. And I want you to be a part of this community if you feel connected to the message I pass on to you through this podcast, to my style of coaching. It's going to be so empowering. The group, I wanted to keep it at 15. So the doors are open today. The application process is simple. You book a one-on-one call with me that is 15 minutes so that you and I can kind of get a sense of who you are. I do like to speak to everybody personally because I want this group to be intimate and that we're all sort of on the same page. So that is the first step to applying. The second step is simple. If you do feel that this is a good fit for you, and I feel the same way, and that this could help you attain your goals, then you move into signing a contract for the next 6 months that explains all the in and outs of this program. The investment of this program is 5,000 Canadian, which you can pay in monthly payments, weekly payments. You tell me how you want to pay for it, or you can also pay in full. The price doesn't change whether you pay in full or if you spread it out throughout the 6 months. You get 3 calls with the group, and you get 1 private 45-minute call with me every month. So you're going to see a lot of me. It's going to be phenomenal. And we're going to get to work on all things mindset, life-work balance, self-esteem, confidence, empowerment. I would love to be your coach. So also head over to the show notes and click on the link to book your call. And if you want to read more about the program, you can also do it on my website or use the call to ask me all your questions. All right, talk to you guys soon. See you next Monday. Bye for now.